Hello, everyone. Welcome to this premiere. This will be another tropical update because it's a hot topic right now, focused on the Atlantic, as that seems to be where all the focus is. Anyway, let's get started. So let's look at the National Hurricane Center. We do see it's still a 20% chance, and slow development is possible over the next several days, but I personally don't think it's going to form. And I'm going to just bring you over the ensembles and stuff. But we're on 18Z GFS, and as we go later into the run, we see it kills the system. Then it brings this other system, and it goes down to 987. And then as it goes up, 954. So it doesn't show it hitting land. I personally still think there's a higher chance of it hitting land. Of course, it would be good if it didn't hit land. Either way, I'm still going to track it and stuff because, of course, I still like tropics, whether it's land or not. And at a very high chance still of being a very strong system. I don't think the chances have gone down for it hitting land. I just think this is an off run, but we will see by the next run. So if we go to the 10M winds, we do see as we go, we're starting to get those tropical storm, then hurricane force winds. By the way, this comes off African coast in the current run in around 96 hours, 72 to 96 hours to be exact. Anyway, it goes up and we're starting to see those major hurricane force winds. I would say around 96 to 110 knots sustained. That might be on the little high end though. And of course, it's going to depend a lot like on the high and the troughs. So anyway, for 850 MB, which is wind gust, like 10M isn't exactly sustained winds, but it's close enough. 850 isn't exactly wind gust, but it's close enough. And usually most weather model websites, that's the only thing they show. Anyway, so we're starting to see those 52 knot wind gusts, and we're getting the hurricane wind gusts as this is moving. And then as it moves north, we're starting to see those wind gusts of 110 to 125 knots. Sustained winds and wind gusts are both bad. And then, of course, if it hits land, you also have that rain threat, too, and flooding. Let's go into the previous run where, if we go back, we're seeing those hurricane force, but it gets much stronger down to 948 and hitting the Leeward Islands. So in this case, it's a land threat. And then if we switch to the Western Atlantic, we do see all the way up to the Florida Keys, and then it starts to move into the Gulf back to 959. And 6Z also showed something similar. So we could see a return to this in 0Z. If we go to 10-meter winds, we do see, of course, it's overestimating the land friction as they always do, but we see higher sustained winds. And in this run, we have the added threat of rain, and we are seeing up to 20, 30 inches of rain. Of course, would bring flooding if this happens. Like I said, take this with a grain of salt. And the fact whether this hits land or not is still very uncertain. I personally do think it will hit land. I just think this is an off run. I think the chances of it hitting land have not gone down. I think it's an off run, but either way, I'm still going to forecast it for you guys. But I still do think it's more likely to hit land. The strengths, whether it hits land or whether it doesn't hit land, all of that still very uncertain. Take this with a grain of salt. But though, it is likely probably to be very strong based on new model runs. So I feel like strengths is at least the most certain thing here. And if we're going back to 60, we do see it showed a similar but more land interaction. If we go to the ECMWF, and we have to go to 12Z. If we go to the North Atlantic, we do see it doesn't really show the systems, but then we do see the system there. And if we zoom in on the tropical Atlantic, 1,000 millibars. If we go to 0Z, 1,007 millibars. And if we look at the Canadian model, if we look at the Canadian model, it doesn't really show it at all. Time to go to the ensembles. So we do We do see it doesn't really show anything, but then we start to see the new tropical systems. We're seeing lots of 980 to 999 millibars and some 960 to 979. And of course, many show Bermuda impacts, many show hitting land. We have a Caribbean system here. It is just very uncertain. If we look at 12Z, more hitting land, but of course it has to go along with what the model's actually showing. And if we look at 6Z, we do see just scattered. Now, guys, I'm going to be honest. I tend to focus for wind on the wind gust more, which in the models is usually the 850 MB winds. Because those are the higher winds. Even if they're not lasting as long, I believe those sudden bursts can cause a lot of damage. And they're the higher winds. So usually I focus on those wind gusts / 850 MB in the models. I focus on that the most. Personally, I just want to tell you guys that. But anyway, let's now switch to the EPS cyclones. And we're going to have to skip the 18 and 60s because they only go out 144 hours. We don't really see anything but more consistent what's going on at the sea, obviously. And they're not showing it as a strong. Whether it's strong or not, I personally think it could be very strong. And whether it hits land or not, I will still track it for you guys. Those consistent updates. If we look at a previous run, we do see much more land impacts. And I have no idea what the models are doing, but they think something will form in the Caribbean in the ensembles and hit land. Because, of course, usually that would happen. But I've really been seeing that in the main model, so I'm not really going to be covering it unless it gets like much bigger in the ensembles and the main models. But the main models aren't even showing it. The ensembles aren't consistent on it. I think they'll just drop it. Just drop it. If we go back to the GEFS and we're going to go to the 850 MB wind control / wind gusts, see the consensus of where they think this will go. We do see the consensus is almost right along with the GFS, the main model. If we go to 12Z, we do see that it shows it much weaker, which the ensemble, that's weird because the GFS showed it pretty strong then. And if we look at 6Z, it barely shows it too. Let's quickly go to the EPS, 12Z, and we do see it's showing definitely something going at the sea. Let's go to the special charts, cyclone maps. Global cyclones, they show the system much weaker. GFS, global cyclones, we definitely see that here. Let's look at the UCMET, which doesn't show anything. The KMA, definitely something. They also think something will happen in the Gulf. I have not seen it. UCMET, I already showed that. And GEFS, these are the current cyclones. So yeah, and we're only focusing on the Atlantic. Let's go to the GFS. Let's go to Tropical Atlantic, and I want to show you guys the IR satellite. If I can even find it, I should be able to. On this website, it goes out to hours 384. You can get some pretty interesting images, but let's just skip through to show. We do see the system right here. Start to go up, and that's terrifying. I don't care if that's hitting land or not. That's terrifying. You don't want to see that. Let's see what 12Z, that's terrifying too. 6Z. Let's see what 6C's surprise is. We see the system right there. And I hope these will load faster. Yep. The models have been mainly showing it hitting land, which, like I said, I don't think the chances have gone down for it. I still think it will hit land, but either way, they've been still switching through the two every few runs, whether we'll hit land or not. EPS, let's see if EPS will have it switch to the tropical Atlantic, and well, that's, oh, not EPS, ECMWF. I don't know why I went to the EPS. Yep, they do have it. It only goes out to hour 240 though, so yeah, you see it, but you don't get really much from it. If we go to pivotal weather, we go to login, we do see, let's go to the tropical, and let's switch to the Caribbean, because you'll be able to see it kind of. And I want to quickly go back to the previous run, and let's go to the, now, I don't want to be mean, but pivotal weather's measurements are way off. So what I do is I use 10 MAGL wind gust as a sustained winds, and 850 MB as a wind gust, which of course I focus on that more, because their measurements are way off. Like, they will show a 920 millibar system at 70 miles an hour with gust. That's like horrible. It's not realistic at all. But anyway, what do you see the system coming through? Giving a lot to Cuba and stuff. And if we look at the upper air dynamics, E50MB, we do see that is pretty strong too. Wind gusts can be more concentrated and overall a smaller wind field than sustained winds, especially the closer you get. Turns out they do have a 10 MAGL. Okay, that is much more realistic. So I found it at least, and let's go to 18Z for that, and we are going to switch to the Southwest Atlantic so we can see the system. So we do see that system coming through around 954 millibars. Let's go to the wind gust measurements are still way off. Like I said, they'll show a 930, 920 millibar system with only like 90 gusts. 90 gusts is still a lot, but for that low of millibars, their measurements would be way off. And I try to give you guys the best information to what I see fit. And by that I mean I want to give you the best information to the best of my advantage. Anyway, we do see, very strong. Bermuda could get some impacts, but I don't think so. I think it's still a little too far from Bermuda in this. Anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed this premiere, and I will see you guys in my video tomorrow. Goodbye.